So I'm actually up next. Just a little bit more about myself. Again, my name is Becky Hopkins. I worked for the city for 23 years, and I'm a lifetime Tri-Valley resident. And as part of my role with the city, I oversee the garbage contract and recycling sustainability efforts. So I've had a lot of one of the common questions I get when I get phone calls from businesses and residents is about garbage rates. So I wanted just to give a quick overview of how garbage rates are set. So first of all, the city entered into a long-term franchise agreement with Pleasanton Garbage Service. It's an 11-year contract. And this gives Pleasanton Garbage Service exclusive rights to collect and dispose of garbage and recycling materials in the city. When we negotiated this franchise agreement, part of the city council set parameters for staff in the negotiation, and one was to have a reduction of cost to the city. And we were able to negotiate a 13.3% overall reduction of costs to the city, which was passed to the ratepayers by the city council. So setting rates are done by the city council. It's outlined in the franchise agreement, which is actually a contract of several hundred pages that stipulates how Pleasanton Garbage Service and the city will work together to collect garbage. And the council reviews the rates that are going to be set usually in the May-June timeframe, and they're in effect July 1. So when we set the new franchise agreement in 2018, a new rate structure was developed. And this was because of that 13.3 reduction in rates, the council needed to contemplate how they were going to apply that reduction. The council selected an approach that was termed the balanced rate structure scenario. So basically, this reduced the residential 35-gallon cart rate and commercial 1 and 2 times per week collection bin on all sizes to below comparable agencies' corresponding rates. And it evenly applied any remaining balance to all other commercial rates. So under the contract, we have 2 methodologies that are used in the rate setting process. We use primarily the index-based rate adjustment methodology, and this is going to be used throughout the term of the agreement with the exception of year 7. And what this index does, it applies a variety presents, and then the city then takes it and evaluates it along with our consulting firm to validate their work and to approve that recommended increase and bring it forward to the council. Again, the council is the one that sets the rates. So staff and PGS itself cannot approve this. It has to go to city council for adoption. Because of the rate methodology is very prescribed, last year for the first time in many years, the rates went on the consent calendar, which is done as kind of a perfunctory part of the meeting. There wasn't a lot of discussion because it was all prescribed. There are opportunities, though, which I'll discuss here, where it would go probably to a public hearing at City Council. So the cost, the year 7 I mentioned is we're going to be using a cost-based adjustment methodology, and really what this allows is for PGS to look at their actual cost of operations and look at their staffing levels, route hours, customers, and take this information and really look at what the actual costs are and present an application to the city for the difference between the forecasted calculated costs for the coming rate period and the actual gross rate revenue that they made the previous year. So the one thing that's built into the contract is that increase, that rate adjustment factor may not exceed 6%. So if they come back and tell us, well, we've done our analysis and they've provided us the application and it shows that their 10 or 12% is the increase they need to cover their costs, they can only ask for 6%. So that's something that we negotiated in the contract. So that'll happen in year 7. Now, there are, as you heard this morning already, China Sword happened, and that kind of was happening at the same time we were finalizing the negotiating of the contract. And we weren't quite sure how that was going to impact rates, and we're still watching that very carefully as being able to market those materials has become more and more challenging, and the profit margin to do so has actually gone away, and we're actually having to pay to get rid of those materials. So there can be a special rate review, which is PGS can request or the city can request. And some of the provisions allowed in the contract is if it's a city-directed change, if there's a provision of emergency services, let's say, and if we had a fire or some sort of earthquake and we needed their assistance. Change in law is one that we are going to be looking at, and you're going to be hearing more today about SB 1383, and that is going to increase rates, and and we'll hear more about that later, but that's a change in law. So we will have to negotiate what the hauler is going to do, what the city is going to do, and how the cost of implementing that state law is going to be passed on to the ratepayers. And then uncontrollable circumstances, emergencies that come up, things unforeseen. And then, again, an extraordinary adjustment to operating costs or commodity revenues beyond the control of the contractor. So under all this, even still in a special rate revenue review, PGS must still complete an application, and they must demonstrate a loss of at least 2% of gross rate revenue. So that's looking at the whole picture. So if it's just the recycling part of their budget that's getting hit, if their overall budget is still coming in at what they expected the revenue to be, they can't come back and say, we want more revenue in this one area. We look at the full picture. And the city has the right to review all financial and operating records of Pleasanton Garbage and their related party entities that are involved in the financial transactions of the business. So this gives the city the opportunity to look at the full picture and make sure that the ratepayers are getting the best rates possible for the services being provided. So we do publish all the city rates. They're on the city website. As soon as they're approved by council, they're put there. You can go to the city website. And we did start a pilot project for commercial businesses in September for rolling carts. Before our pilot program began, rolling carts were available to businesses for pickup once a week. And especially in our downtown and some of our smaller constrained enclosures, having an actual metal bin is not possible. So now with the pilot program, businesses can have all 3 streams in a rolling cart that can be picked up to 5 times a week. So those pilot project fees are also on the website. They're listed out separately because they haven't been adopted into the fee structure permanently. And I actually have flyers in the outside about that, the rates for that new program. But that's really going to help businesses who are trying to comply, especially with the new organics requirements, to be able to have a service that's going to meet those needs for them. So, are there any questions about rates that I can answer for you?